Well, SNL has been unfunny for a long time, and to add to this unfunniness, there's now a healthy dose of political propaganda. Good news for us, not only can we watch SNL now to learn how to not write jokes, but we can watch SNL to learn how to not think. For further illumination of what I mean here, let's see what Pete Davidson has to say this week about Kanye West.
Last week, Kanye West performed on the show, and afterwards he gave an unplanned speech to the audience in support of Donald Trump. Here with his reaction to Kanye's speech is Pete Davidson.
First off, a lot of people thought Che should be the one to talk about Kanye, but we discussed it, because Che's black, but I'm crazy, and we both know which side of Kanye is at the wheel right now.
I mean, that's a pretty good joke, but then you think about it, and to the extent to which that people really believe what he just said. Who are we going to have talk about what Kanye said on SNL about Donald Trump? It now makes sense to a lot of people, which I don't think it did even 5 years ago, that you go to the black guy. The black guy is going to talk about the other black guy. That's how this works. Nobody has the right, or nobody would have the insight if you didn't have a certain pigmentation in your skin. I mean, humor is cultural. And this joke does a good job of playing off the implicit biases of the culture, or at least the culture of Rockefeller Center. But it's really strange that people would think, well, it's not strange, that's the premises of Marxism. Is people who are who they are because of their class. Now, in original Marxism, it was economic class, but now it's racial ethnic class. I mean, it's really fascinating to the extent to which this splits people apart. I mean, this is part of the cultural divide in America right now. Is there's necessarily a cultural divide to the extent that we accept Marx's premises. Continuing.
So, off to a good start. So speaking strictly for myself, what Kanye said after he went off the air last week was one of the worst, most awkward things I've ever seen here. And I've seen Chevy Chase speak to an intern.
First criticism isn't anything about what he said. No argument. The first criticism was it was awkward. This is a girl criticizing a guy's lame pickup line. That's what this is. Now you say he's just making a joke. It's just Pete Davidson making a joke. Or are you picking on him? I'm not really picking on Pete Davidson so much, but this is exactly what I hear all the time. And I wouldn't be doing a response video to this if it wasn't just the video. But this has been my life for the past 6 years in graduate school. I mean, these are the arguments that I hear. Continuing.
And we all had to stand behind him. And here's what it looked like. So, that inspires me. I'm on the left. I'm oh, God. And then I'm I want a career, so I leave.
Proving Kanye's point exactly. He just proved his point, dude. You want a career. You don't even want to be on stage with somebody who's supporting Donald Trump. Can I just say, I mean, you guys may know, but I'm not a Trump fan. In 3 of the last 4 elections, if it wasn't for a libertarian candidate, I would have voted Democrat. Completely validating Kanye's point. Exactly. You want a career. So you get a Hillary Clinton tattoo on your arm in case there were any questions because you're a white male. Continuing.
Necessary. So Kanye was wearing a MAGA hat. That's what it's called. It's stupid. Yeah. And he started by saying people backstage tried to bully him into not wearing it. He wore it all week. Nobody told him not to wear it. I wish I bullied you. I wish I would have suggested that, it might upset some people, like your wife or every black person ever. I wish someone...
Don't do something, it might upset somebody. That's the reason for not doing something, is it might upset somebody. This is from a culture that is over-socialized and undereducated. What is tantamount in a culture that is over-socialized and undereducated is hurting somebody's feelings. upsetting somebody. Are you wrong? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You upset somebody. Continuing.
Someone bullied me into not wearing this hat. Can you imagine that t-shirt was the second stupidest thing I was wearing?
Not to name drop, but I am going to name drop here. One of the reasons maybe I was compelled to do this video, this Pete Davidson video, is because I did do a stand-up show with Pete Davidson one time. Back in 2012 or 2013. I don't know if it was a show so much with him. I think he came to the show and did a set in a show that I was in, so it wasn't like we were in the same show necessarily. But this is back, nobody knew who he was. He was just some guy. And I met him and everything, and he seems like a nice guy. But the reason I bring this up is this is his humor. This is all he does. I mean, he's funny, don't get me wrong, but he has this thing that he keeps doing over and over again. I think for 3 minutes in his set, he got up there and made fun of how ugly and gangly he was. Or how he wasn't very attractive. He's a good-looking guy. He's a tall, good-looking guy. And all he does is make fun of himself for being skinny. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is what he does. He makes fun of himself. And I'm not saying it's wrong to do, but man, it sure does get old. Another joke technique that gets old, which he's going to rely on later, is the metaphor. I'm going to use a somewhat relevant metaphor to explain what just happened, and I guess that's going to be the joke. And the laughter comes from the relief of an insight. Is that the humor? Anyway, humble bragging too. This is obvious. That's what this is. He's standing there next to Ariana Grande. Yeah, you're an idiot, dude. You're an idiot and you're ugly. That's continuing.
Then Kanye said that Democrats broke up black families with welfare, and that's slavery is not real. Do you know how wrong about politics you have to be for, like, me to notice?
Yeah, Democrats did break up black families with welfare. Talk to the issue. If you're going to make an argument, talk to the issue. And you can't hide behind, oh, I'm just Pete Davidson, I'm a comedian, I'm an entertainer, what do you expect from me? And you go on to criticize, we'll get to it, you go on to criticize Kanye West for sharing his political opinion even though he's just an entertainer. That's exactly what you're doing. Total lack of self-awareness. I left the stage because I want a job, proving Kanye's point, and making fun of Kanye for being a musician commenting on politics when you're a comedian commenting on politics. Have you run this by anybody who even deviates from your political opinion by 0.5%? And that's really what's fascinating about this. That's what's fascinating about this New York bubble that we live in. No self-awareness. Did Democratic policies break up the black family? You could make an argument that they did. Now, I kind of think it's racist to just blame it on Democratic policies. I mean, that's the Republican, maybe more white Republican argument to this. The bigotry of low expectations. Why don't we put some responsibility on the black community for the breaking up of their families, and then that white Republican will turn around and blame the breaking up of the black family on Democratic policies. If your rich uncle dies and leaves you with $100,000 and you go and use that $100,000 to fuel some cocaine stripper habit that you didn't have before, do you say, oh, the money broke up this guy's life, broke this guy's life apart? No, you would say, well, the money didn't help it. Clearly there are issues here beneath the surface that the money exposed. It's not the money so much. But let's take Kanye's arguments down point by point. And he doesn't say that slavery didn't exist. He's a poet, right? He's a genius, as you say. He's speaking about these things in metaphor. It's not that it didn't exist, but that we treat it like it was this huge thing when in fact every ethnic population has been slaves at some point. I am Slavic. The word slave literally comes from Slavic people. We are slaves for so long. But why is it that there's one ethnic group, there's one racial minority that is still complaining about it? That's Kanye's point when he says slavery didn't exist. Continuing.
You know how annoying that is? Like, Kanye is a genius, but like a musical genius. You know, like Joey Chestnut is a hot dog eating genius. You know, but I don't want to hear Joey Chestnut's opinion about things that aren't hot dog related.
There's the metaphors joke I was talking about. I mean, I get it. SNL needs to churn out these shows every week, but as a lame comedian, I've made, I think, $43 as a comedian throughout my lifetime. And even I notice that. Like, you just can't rely, but that's the bubble. As long as you're playing to the audience, you can rely on those jokes. Or you could just say, the MAGA hat, oh, it's stupid. It's kind of stupid. That's the joke. Making an observation that's not that insightful. I mean, I guess he sort of says it in a funny way, and Pete Davidson does have a funny delivery. You can tell he's a naturally funny guy. I think you're going to see the rise of a very funny right-wing comedian base coming up here pretty soon, because they need to be funny. If you're making a joke, making fun of Hillary Clinton, it can't be 98% funny. It has to be 100% funny to get a laugh. It's like bacteria. Okay, now here I'm using metaphors, but I don't claim it to be funny. The antibiotic needs to wipe out all the bacteria. It needs to wipe out it all. If it leads 0.001%, you're effed. Because that 0.001% that it doesn't wipe out, that is the tough MF in bacteria. It's going to multiply and come back, and now you're going to have to come up with a new drug to get rid of it, and it's going to be much more difficult. Continuing.
That's a very good, yes, I agree.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. But like,
see what Pete Davidson did there? And he made the similar joke at the beginning. He got a much bigger applause. He got a much bigger laughter than he was expecting. He knows these jokes aren't that good. He's like, oh, yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, really? It's like he did in the beginning of the set when he's like, yeah, really making a strong start here, whatever he said. He's surprised at how much people are laughing at this. Playing to the audience, dude. That's what's going to happen. Continuing.
Kanye, I know you're like, yo, this is the real me. I'm off the meds. Take them. There's no shame in the medicine game. I'm on them. It's great. Take them. There's nothing wrong with take them. If I ever got on a plane and the pilot said, I just want all you to know, this is the real me flying.
Another metaphor. Continuing.
I'd jump out. Being mentally ill is not an excuse to act like a jackass. Okay? I'm quoting my therapist, my mom, and my mailman. Sorry, Carl.
So Kanye is stupid. He doesn't make any sense. And if you still agree with him, well, keep in mind that he's crazy, so you can't listen to anything that he says. But you just said you're crazy, Pete Davidson. Why are we listening to anything that you say? And this isn't Pete Davidson. This isn't SNL. This is a culture that goes on when you're in an echo chamber. This is what being wrong looks like. This is what feeling right, for the sake of appeasing an ideology, for the sake of appeasing the culture you're in, this is exactly what it looks like. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's joking back and forth. The audience is laughing. Everybody's on your side. It feels really good. Why do people believe stupid things even when all the evidence points to the contrary? Because it feels good. Continuing.
But no, seriously, one time I stopped taking my meds and I bit my mom. No, it's all good. I bought her a house.
All right, so is there anything Kanye can do to win you back?
Yeah, there is, and I'll tell you in a way that Kanye understands. I made this. Make Kanye 2006 again.
All right, that's a great joke. Look, guys, this is stuff we all need to learn in high school. The concept of steel manning. Making an argument, making your opponent's argument so well that your opponent would say, yeah, that's actually a really great way of stating my point. I couldn't have made it better, and then argue against that. But if you just submerge yourself in a culture where everybody's going to believe you no matter what, then you don't have to do this, and you get the validation of going through an argument and being correct and reading books and all that stuff. You can just get the validation if you surround yourselves with people who agree with you. And that is a huge avoidance technique. We live in the age of attachment disorder. Another way of saying that is we live in the age of the anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorder is caused by avoidance, and that is a huge avoidance technique. Is just to surround yourself. You're with somebody and you don't agree with them. You have different premises. Instead of looking into those premises and figuring out, what's going on, who's are more in line with reality, you just go, oh, forget this. I'm going to go surround myself with somebody who agrees with me, and that is Manhattan. Now that's Houston also. But in a nation of anxiety, a nation of avoidance techniques, that is what you're necessarily going to get. Thanks for listening, guys. Take